Hey, Eagles fans, if you're a subscriber to the JAKIB Media YouTube channel, you are already registered to win a pair of season tickets for the upcoming season. That's right, you could win a pair of season tickets for the upcoming 2021 season just for being a subscriber. If you're watching and you're not a subscriber, do it now. Subscribe to the JAKIB Media YouTube channel right now. What do you need to do? Subscribe right now.
Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365. We certainly thank Vinny Serrato for hopping aboard. As John said right before we went to break, he's like a library. He's just got great stories. And when you get Vinny going, wind him up, he starts telling stories. He can put a smile on your face if you're a football.
By the way, you know, would T.O. show up in practice, in joint practices? He's got a point there. There are gamers, as they say.
That's very true. But somehow we're supposed to know the Eagles are good because they were really good in joint practices.
Yes, undefeated in joint practices.
4-0. It's huge. That's why I have some reservations about the early part of the schedule this year with the Birds. But there is one thing that, and this is, Vinny's not alone in this, and maybe I'm just a bigger fan and have more confidence. I think people are underestimating Jalen Hurts' ability to run the football with the start of this season. No, we didn't get in until 3/4 of the way through the year and ended up starting 4 games. His final game, he only rushed for 30-some-odd yards because they had to get the unstoppable Nate Sudfeld into the game in the second half. But the 3 weeks previous to that, he had rushed for 106, 63, and 69 yards. Johnny Mac, I did the math. That's 79 yards a game over a 3-game period. Now, I know you got to average it out. That was 3 games. I guess it's like Travis Fulgham had that 4-game run, and what happened before and what happened after. Well, not enough to give him a chance to make the football team this year. I think Jalen Hurts running the football is going to be a major weapon for the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, he's not as fast as Lamar Jackson. I don't need him to be as fast. He might not be as dynamic as Murray of Arizona. But I think he's the 3rd best running quarterback in the National Football League. I think it's a legitimate weapon. I think this team is going to run a ton of RPOs, and he's going to keep the football and turn it upfield and move the chains. I think it's going to be a big part of the Eagles' offense this year. Jalen Hurts keeping the football and running with it. Do you think it is or is?
I agree with you. I think you're going to show up week 1. You're going to see a ton of RPOs. I think he's going to be a huge impact from a rushing standpoint. That's going to be a big part of this offense. I've said the same thing. What I think Vinny was saying is what I said. We've talked about it on the show. I don't like the Lamar Jackson comparison because they're different types of runners. Lamar Jackson's this freakish, athletic, you know, the best correlation previously would be Michael Vick, even more athletic than that, if that's possible. But Jalen Hurts is a power lifter. I've always made the comparison that he's like Cam Newton, not as big. He's that type of runner. Still very effective, still very important to the offense and capable of helping the offense. I think what Vinny was trying to say, they're not similar type players. And I agree with that. I think the better comparison from a running standpoint is a Cam Newton type, not because of the size. It's not a perfect comparison because Cam is just this monstrous. But from a power standpoint, and again, Jalen Hurts dating back to his high school days was a power lifter. I've heard one personnel executive say he's like a fullback playing quarterback. He's just powerful. I don't think people realize how powerful he is because he's not Cam Newton stature, but he's incredibly, incredibly strong. I don't think the comparison is there stylistically with Lamar Jackson.
Understood. I do think you can compare them, and you just need to compare production instead of style. I don't care how Jalen Hurts rushes for 1,000 yards this year. I don't. If it's whether it's with speed and or moves and juking a defender rather than dropping a shoulder and moving a defender and extending the football and getting 3 or 4 extra yards, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And if he and Lamar Jackson do it differently, that's perfectly fine to me. I just want to compare what they're producing. How many yards are they getting? How many first downs are they getting when they pull the football down and take off with it? I think you can compare those two things between those two quarterbacks. Just because one does it with more dexterity and one does it with more power, you can still compare the two of them. And I really do believe there's 3 running quarterbacks in this league, guys who absolutely are going to make big plays with their legs, and the Eagles have one of them.
Yeah, I agree
Lamar
with
Jackson,
that.
Murray, and Jalen Hurts, and everyone. And Josh Allen has got the capabilities of doing it, but I just don't think he's going to do it that much, and I think he'll do it less this year than he's ever done it before. I still think it's going to be a huge part of the Eagles' offense this year. Jalen Hurts taking off.
Oh, it was a huge part when he was in for the short period he was. I mean, you have to take advantage of his running ability. You have to. I mean, that's one of the strengths in theory of Jalen Hurts' game. The Eagles know that. That part I agree with. I think what Benny was trying to say is they're not stylistically comparable. But yeah, if you're just talking about impact and piling up yards and how you do it, you're not looking at how you do it. Yeah, he's going to be very effective. That's a big part of his game. No question about it.
You mentioned that Lamar Jackson rushed for 1,000 yards. I think there's a chance that Jalen Hurts rushes for 1,000 yards.
Well, I don't. Here's where I'll deter. I don't want him to rush for 1,000 yards.
Do you want to win football games this year?
Well, yes and no. Do you want to get him hurt? I think if he's rushing for 1,000 yards, if you hit that number, you probably played a significant level of footballs. But I do ultimately think you're playing with fire. I do ultimately think he's going to get hurt. There's the difference. There's the big difference between Lamar Jackson to this point. And by the way, I think if Lamar Jackson plays long enough, he's going to get hurt as well. But there's the difference. Lamar Jackson, nobody can hit the guy because he's such a freak athletically to this point. Jalen Hurts, people are going to hit him. And if you play like a fullback playing quarterback, that's my concern.
I think that the Eagles are not as concerned as John McMullen is because they haven't committed to Jalen Hurts going forward for years to come. If he carries him for 14 weeks, he gets hurt in week 15. Here comes off the bench Gardner Minshew to try and save the day.
That is if that's their plan. If their plan is essentially, Ezekiel Elliott early in his career, but only a quarterback. We only got this guy for a short period. Let's run him into the ground. Yeah, maybe. It depends. But I think, you mentioned Josh Allen, and I think that's a nice comparison of where I want to go. Josh Allen could do all that. The Bills don't want him to do all that because the Bills want him to be their quarterback for a really long time. And I think the Bills are right. The question is, do the Eagles want Jalen Hurts to be their quarterback for a really long time? I don't know.
Nor do they, and that's why you talk about not being able to make a comparison. As soon as Allen signed that contract, the amount of running he was going to do in this upcoming season was probably cut in half. They said, hey, Josh, throw the ball away. Josh, throw the ball away. Josh, get rid of the football. Don't turn it upfield, Josh. Throw the ball out of bounds. Because they are committed to him financially now, not just in their belief, but also in their salary cap, which is huge. The Eagles aren't committed to Jalen Hurts for more than...
I agree with that. I've said that forever. I get killed on the stream and everywhere else for saying the Eagles don't necessarily believe in Jalen Hurts, but I'm also not going to go down the route of they don't care about Jalen Hurts. They're not going to use him as this disposable service and just take advantage. Okay, he could run the football now and just use them up and then go to the next page. I'm not that cynical, which is surprising because I'm pretty cynical. I I haven't gotten to that point yet. I don't think they want that for him. But at the end of the day, look, his running ability is going to be a huge, huge part of this offense. A huge part.
On that, it seems we can both agree. Vinny gave us a good take on the Eagles. I was a little surprised. I got to be honest and admit this. Tony Romo, who took a lot of grief in this town because he was the Cowboy quarterback. And if you're an Eagles fan, you hate every single Cowboy, so you hated Tony Romo too. But the guy's proven to be a really good in-game analyst on CBS, their lead dog. I guess he was doing some media responsibilities this week to get people to watch the games and sponsors and everything else for CBS. He took two pretty hard stances, which both surprised me a little bit. The first was he compared Zach Wilson of the Jets to Patrick Mahomes.
You like that, don't you? Yeah, the all-platform throw. By the way, I love Zach Wilson. I think I told you. That kid can sling the football, man. I'm not going to say he's Patrick Mahomes, but he's got these weird and funky arm angles. I can see the comparison. He does this all-platform stuff that you probably don't want to teach as if you were being, fundamentally sound. But he's got a natural ability to do it. I would be excited if I were a Jets fan about Zach Wilson.
He's got some swagger to his game. I will agree with you there. But do you have to compare him to the best quarterback?
Yeah, well,
nothing like setting the bar high, Tony Romo. Thanks for that, big guy.
That's never fair. And that's the reason. See, I didn't hear Tony's comments. I'm assuming he's talking about his playing style and what I was saying, those all-platform throws, the arm angles, the arm slots. He's got a lot of those capabilities. I'm guessing that's what Tony meant, but people just...
No. He was talking about production.
Well,
he can do what Patrick Mahomes does. That's not just slinging it sidearm. That's throwing for 375 yards.
If he's talking about production, let me know when Zach Wilson gets around Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill, and then maybe. Probably not, though.
Ridiculous. The other thing that Romo said was the Eagles are being well underrated, that people are sleeping a little bit on the Philadelphia Eagles, and they're a team that if they get the right breaks, and Sirianni is the guy, double-digit wins this year.
Yeah.
And he thinks the Eagles can win 10 games. I didn't see that one coming from Tony Romo. Again, it all comes down to where you're setting your bars. And a guy like him, whose opinion is as well respected as it is, he's a high-profile NFL guy. When you're the lead analyst on one of the major networks, you just inherit that type of gravitas. He's got the Eagles winning double-digit games, Johnny Mac. Are we putting a little too much pressure on the Eagles?
Is that pressure? I will say this. If you believe in the quarterback, you should think this team is going to win 10 games because they have the offensive and defensive lines, and that's where everything is kind of morphs from and sort of grows out of. So if you believe in the quarterback, you should be at 10 wins. Does Tony believe in the quarterback? I don't know how you can. Only from this step, we saw 10 live reps. And we saw what we saw last year. So I use the term uncertainty. People assume that's negative. Not necessarily. It could be positive. But I think we all have to agree it's uncertain. I don't know what to expect because I haven't seen it. There's no demonstrated performance. But if you believe in the kid, you should be at 10 wins.
I think Jalen Hurts has got a chance to have a real nice year. I'm a little more confident in his rushing ability than his throwing ability, and putting throwing ability second isn't all about him. John, my biggest concern about this offense is unquestionably at the wide receiver position.
Oh, yeah.
You know how big a fan of Devontae Smith I am. Quez Watkins had a great first preseason game. You can talk to all the joint practice plays that he did or didn't make. I can't because I wasn't there. But he had, even in that one game, he had two plays, one of which was an incomplete pass. one of which was a wide receiver screen, well blocked, well run by him. Wow. He just sprinted by everybody, and give him credit for that. And one play where he got behind the defense and Jalen overthrew him by about 3 yards. That's it. And he is now at least wide receiver 3, if not wide receiver 2 on this team. Because what did Jalen Reagor do other than make a couple of highlight practice catches?
Yeah,
they have so little already proven experience at the wide receiver position. It scares the snot out of me.
Oh, I'm in the same boat. And I just talked about uncertainty. So, Jody, you've been covering this league for a long time. Anytime you have questions, they're not all answered in a positive fashion. So if you say, if Jalen Reagor does this, I say this all the time, if Quez Watkins does this, if Jalen Hurts does this, all of those are not going to be positive. Right. I got news for you. And you talk about Quez Watkins, who, had a great summer, deserves this opportunity because he's better than everybody else the Eagles trotted out there against him. At the same time, you say great preseason game, really great preseason play. And by the way, if Brett Toth doesn't make that block, it's going nowhere. If Richard Rodgers is not even here, doesn't make that block, it's going nowhere. So, I mean, there were other parts to that play as well. And then you bring up the Jalen Hurts overthrow. Well, wasn't an overthrow. Jalen protected him. It might have been, but he also got bumped off his route early. He's not the most physical kid in the world. So, all of a sudden, a big play turns into an overthrow by the quarterback, perhaps because the wide receiver got bumped off his route because he's not physical enough. There's a lot of issues there. I wouldn't expect a superstar receiver out of Quez Watkins. I'll just say that. And Jalen Reagor, yeah, I mean, the inconsistency and the route running, it's just not good. I don't even talk about Devontae Smith because I think that kid's going to be good. I do have concern, 166 pounds, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. We all know that. If he's out there, I think he's going to be fine. There's going to be hiccups. You already saw hiccups. You saw a couple drops in the preseason. It's not going to be all peaches and cream, but he's going to be a good player. The other two, I'm not confident in. Let's just say I want Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert out there.
And as of now, their backups at the wide receiver position are my guy, Greg Ward, who I have to be 100% honest, had a disappointing preseason. You can talk to the joint practices. I saw the preseason games. He didn't make any splash plays. He made very few plays, period. Last year, he was their number one wide receiver, more catches than anyone else at the wide receiver position. That's got to count for something, but it wasn't like that put so many chips in the bank that he could come back and do nothing this preseason. He came back and did next to nothing this preseason. So I got to admit, my confidence is down on my guy, Greg Ward, but it is certainly well above that of J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. I still don't understand how this guy's on the team. Other than Howie Roseman used the second-round pick on him, he's done squat-ta since he got into the league, and he is an option with the Eagles because if they've only got 5 wide receivers, and we readily admit Reagor's a question mark, and Watkins a question mark, and Greg Ward has not stepped up this year, by process of elimination, Arcega-Whiteside's going to get a chance here. I don't have any confidence in him making plays. That, to me, makes the wide receiver position a very questionable position.
Yeah, and they could always remember they magically got Travis Fulgham through waivers. John Hightower's still here. They signed the other Keyshawn Johnson. So they have bodies to elevate if they need to elevate bodies, but none of them are in. I mean, JJ's on this team. I talk all the time about, first and second round picks. Look, he deserves to be on this team for the way he played in the summer, only because the other guys don't deserve to be on the team. I mean, if you saw Travis Fulgham and you saw John Hightower, you wouldn't be shaking your head. He had a better summer than those guys. Now, you could have probably picked up somebody better on the waiver wire than all 3. That's the problem. That's the problem. you got to get better at that position. And for the assets the Eagles have poured into it, first round pick in 2021, first round pick in 2020, second round pick in 2019, it's astonishing they can't get it right. It is astonishing. Especially, you look around this league, Jody, everybody's got receivers. It's not a hard position to find at least competency. The Eagles haven't been able to do it.
Why do you think they didn't upgrade their receiver position through a waiver pickup?
Well, maybe it was just as simple as, I know Jacksonville picked up a receiver. Maybe it was as simple as not getting the guy they claimed. Maybe it was they didn't feel there was value there. Maybe, my biggest argument is I think they needed a veteran presence, and I still think that. I still think they need a more veteran presence at receiver. If for the bare minimum, just as sort of a foundation for that room. I mean, Greg Ward is the veteran in that room, and he was a quarterback at the University of Houston. I mean, look, I would like to have some kind of veteran presence in that room. I really would, but they are where they are.
They are, and the veteran presence is a tight end, which is both Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz, who's still here, despite the fact that some media outlets had him traded 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times between.
I don't know one who didn't. And by the way, I'm writing about this. Well, you're not a media outlet. You're a media legend.
Of course I am a media outlet. I'm a media outlet of myself. The same way you are a media outlet.
That's okay. You're fair. Fair point. I'll phrase it this way, and this is not an insult to you. Anyone who was around the team, I don't think there was anyone who didn't think on a daily basis, who didn't think that Zach Ertz would be out of here. By the way, Zach Ertz didn't think Zach Ertz would be here. Howie Roseman, it's interesting because when Zach talked last week, he said, in the end, Howie Roseman believed in him more than anybody else because he wouldn't waver as far as what he thought the value was. Now, he was willing to trade Zach Ertz. He wanted a day 2 pick. He wanted a 3rd round pick minimum. Nobody around the league thought Zach Ertz at that stage coming off that season with that contract was worth a 3rd round pick. And Howie stood his ground and said, if you're not giving me this, I'm not trading the guy.
All right.
I think it's interesting.
Let me hop in here for just 1 second. And I'm hooking you up to the truth-o-meter here. Okay, Johnny Mac? I expect a truthful answer. Which of these 2 statements is more true? Howie Roseman held tight to asking for a day 2 pick in exchange for Zach Ertz because he thought Zach Ertz had a chance to bounce back and return to maybe just below Pro Bowl level status, or Howie Roseman wanted to make sure he got no egg on his face for having to settle for a 3rd round pick for a guy that they gave a good 2nd contract to. Which one do you think it was more? Well, Howie's tremendous football evaluation and ability to judge the bounce back of a player, or Howie's self-preservation? Well,
can I pick a C?
Yes, feel free.
Because I think the first part of A is correct. I don't think the second part of the first part of what you said is correct. I don't think he thought it was going to be this big bounce back season. But I don't think there would have been egg on his face. And by the way, I'm not saying Howie Roseman had great personnel acumen. I don't think he does. I'm saying Zach Ertz now believes that Howie Roseman actually valued him more than the rest of the league. I think Howie wanted a 3rd round pick because Howie's about leverage. We always use the Sam Bradford scenario. Howie's about leveraging people. Howie's about winning trades. Howie's got a little Sam Hinkie in him, in the fact that he wants to win a trade at all costs, even when maybe it's not that big of a deal to not get a win in a trade. He's kind of obsessed with that. I think that is what went on. And he was going to win this stinking trade if there was going to be a trade. That's what I think happened.
Right. And to me, I called it self-preservation, and I think it is, because if you're always winning trades, you're going to be perceived to be doing a great job in your position. So that's we're agreeing. We're just using semantical different terms. And you're right. Here's the best point that you made, where I think you're making the most salient point, and the thing that's going to actually help the Eagles this year. It all comes down to what Zach Ertz believes. You and I can have an opinion here on Birds 365, which is nice. But if Zach Ertz is in a better mental spot because he thinks Howie Roseman held out for that higher pick because Howie values him. No, Howie values himself and looking good himself. And I don't think he did it out of the goodness of his heart or his advanced evaluation of Zach Ertz. But if Zach believes that, good on you, Zach. Go out and kick some you-know-what this year. Get yourself 80 catches. Get yourself 10 touchdowns. Get yourself a mega contract during the offseason. If it motivates him and keeps him happy and got him as a productive Eagle, all Eagle fans should be happy for it.
Yeah, and it certainly seems to have. And sometimes, and you know this in sports, it's better to be lucky than good, Jody. Sometimes it just works out for you. But I do think there's this correlation. This is where I said at the beginning of this segment, look, just because Zach is here, just because we all said he wasn't going to be here, the two things aren't mutually exclusive. Zach didn't expect to be here. Zach said goodbye. The Eagles wanted to trade Zach Ertz. The Eagles expected to trade Zach Ertz. It didn't get done. It didn't get done because Howie's trying to leverage. And if Rick Spielman called up after Irv Smith got hurt, and the name would have been, hey, Zach Ertz, not Dallas Goedert, and he was offering a second-round pick, Zach Ertz would be in Minnesota right now.
Probably would, much to the chagrin of Nick Sirianni, because I think Sirianni.
Oh, I agree with that, too. Nick loves him.
Sirianni's got plans to throw the ball to Zach Ertz a lot this year. We'll see how it shakes out. All right, Mac and Mac, guys. John McMullen, Jody McDonald. We got another guest coming, Connor Orr, who's been on with us several times since the start of the show, does an outstanding job covering the entire National Football League for Sports Illustrated. He's scheduled to join us next.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.